Hello everyone, this is Mohammed. At this video, I'd like to introduce an additional rule to the variables tutorial. The rule is, you should typedef your application variables whenever possible. So instead of using the raw C types like integer, float, boolean, you should make a typedef, or in other words, you should create a new derived type for your variables. The reason why this is useful is that it makes variable distinct throughout your code. And additionally, you can incorporate scaling and unit to the typedef name. Let me demonstrate this with an example. First, let's look at scaling. If our variable contains a scaling of some sort, like kilo, centi, milli, or micro, we can add this as part of the typedef name to make code a lot more readable. So a practical example of this is GPS latitude, where developers tend to store this information as decimal value with scaling, instead of float to avoid rounding errors. And it is often stored in microunit, or a scaling factor of 1,000,000, 10 to the power minus 6. So instead of using the C raw type, like unsigned 32, to store this information as GPS latitude, and then you would write something like 27, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which in reality this would be representing 27.123456 as GPS latitude. Instead of using the raw C types, we would typedef this variable and create a new type that's called GPS latitude. But the advantage here is that we can incorporate the scaling as part of the typedef name. Let me show you. So we're going to do typedef and then derive one from unsigned 32, and then we're going to call the new type GPS latitude, but this time I can add micro here, and then the suffix underscore t to indicate that this is a typedef. Now I can create a new variable with this type. So I can do GPS latitude, and then I can call it GPS latitude like a normal one here, and I'll set the number exactly similar to this. So instead of using this, we should now use the typedef method. And similarly, for variables with units, we can incorporate the unit within the typedef name. For example, if I have a variable that holds the average speed in kilometer hours, I need to create a new typedef for that variable, okay? And this will make it very clear that this variable unit is kilometer hour, very similar to the micro here. So let me do that. So I'm going to create a new type. And let's say this is derived from floating point. And I'm going to call this average speed underscore kmh for kilometer hour, and then the suffix underscore t. And then simply I can use this throughout my code whenever I'm going to create a new variable of this type. So let's do one here real quick. So let's call this average speed. Okay, and set the value to something like 45.67 or whatever. And I can align these two to make it a lot better as well. And this brings me to the end of this tutorial. Thumb up if you learned something new. Goodbye.